Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for always coming back and kindly subscribe. Today we are going to continue with the topic of mental health, and today we are going to deal with suicide. Kindly introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. I'm Nicholas Wanjiro, a psychiatric nurse, and I'm ready to take you through suicide so that we can help each other on understanding it more better.
Thank you. So as we begin, what is suicide?
So by definition, suicide is the act of taking thyself's life or the act of killing yourself. Unlike the natural way of dying, you can die naturally through, let's say, an illness. You can have an accident. So there are natural ways of dying. But now, with suicide, someone normally kills themselves. Yeah, or rather, they terminates their lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are the risk factors of suicide?
Thank you. So we have several risk factors of suicide, or other things that make someone commit suicide. And starting with the first one is mental illness. We have various mental illnesses that make someone kill themselves, and the first one is depression. Like we discussed initially on depression is a feeling of unworthiness, loneliness. There is no self-love, there is a lot of guilt, there is social, all those signs that we talked on in depression.
Yes, there's a video on depression, so sure. Kindly check on one of the video on depression.
Yeah. So when someone is depressed, they feel like they've gotten to the end of their life, the end of the tunnel, and that's why they end up committing suicide. And then we have bipolar. In bipolar, we have variation of moods, and people who are bipolar, at some point they get so much depressed, and they end up committing suicide. And then we have other illnesses like schizophrenia. In schizophrenia, we have a lot of hallucinations, and someone can have what we call commanding voices. That is what we call auditory hallucination. Someone can have commanding voices that are telling them to kill themselves. I have an example of a patient who tried to commit suicide, but luckily he survived. So upon asking him what made him try to kill himself, he said that he had commanding voices in his head, and these voices were telling him to kill himself. If he don't kill himself, the people who are talking in his mind were telling him, we will come, kill you, and it will be a painful death, and then you will go kill your family members one by one.
So he had to kill himself to prevent his family members from being killed.
Exactly. For him, through killing himself, it was an act of
saving
mercy.
His family. Oh, mercy.
Yeah, exactly. He saved his family, and also he saved himself from more pain, because these voices, rather the hallucinations he was having, we are telling him, if you don't kill yourself, we will kill you, and it will be a painful death. So for him, it was an act of mercy. So mental illnesses, an example of depression, bipolar, and schizophrenia are some of the illnesses that can make someone kill themselves.
Yes.
The other risk factor is having substance use disorder. Having substance use disorder is having someone who is using substances. It can
Substances like
marijuana. It can be marijuana, bangi, that is. Yeah. We can have heroin, cocaine, those hard drugs, alcohol, exactly. And when someone takes those substances, they are normally not in the normal state. So what happens? Some of them get into a state we call psychosis. And when someone is psychosis, they can have hallucinations as well, or they are not able to think well. They are not able to coordinate accordingly. And some of them get emotional imbalances. And in one of those, some of them get depressed, and they end up killing themselves. And also there is the self-blaming. When you're too drunk, You start blaming yourself. I'm a failure. I can't achieve this and that. I no longer even understand myself, and they ends up killing themselves. And actually, for information, when it comes to substance use disorder, there are some people who starts drinking as a social drinker, and then in the process, they start thinking of drinking themselves more with the name of killing themselves.
Do some people also drink them, and they drink a lot to forget the pain?
Yeah, sure. There are people who drink themselves to kind of blindfold themselves to the reality. You get that? Maybe I'm having a lot of challenges or difficult situations in life and all that. So the only way I can blindfold myself from those things, I end up drinking. So every time I'm faced by a particular challenge, I drink. Every time I'm faced by a particular challenge, I drink. And there are people. The other risk factor for suicidal is having serious terminal illness. An example is cancer, HIV/AIDS, someone who is diabetic. We have people who have what we call terminal illnesses or chronic illnesses, and as a result of long-term pain, they end up killing themselves. Others, as a result of the same illness, they tend to consider themselves as a burden to the family members. So they think that the only way they can relieve their family of the burden is through taking their life. Particularly people who have cancer. Yeah, the long-term bills, the long-term medical bills and all that tends to make them feel as if they are becoming a burden to their family.
When there's like a huge bill,
huge bills,
the
and all
family
that.
is struggling.
Exactly. And also the pain. Some of them, the pain becomes too much and they just can't bear it anymore. You get that, And when it comes to a situation like HIV/AIDS, some people get traumatized. There's what we call stigma from the community, and they tend to kill themselves.
But they should know, like, these days HIV is manageable. You can even stay like for 10 or 20 years more than even someone who doesn't have HIV. So it's no longer that chronic. If you accept yourself, you can even live longer than someone who doesn't have.
Exactly. And even to the community, it's not okay to stigmatize someone who is HIV positive. Remember, this is an illness that you and I can get. So the best thing we can do is to understand these people, offer them the necessary support. If it's medical support, we offer them. If it's nutritional support, if it's the social support, spiritual support, we offer them whatever support they need. So through this way, we won't stigmatize them, and we will handle in along the way the suicidal behaviors or suicidal action of such a particular person.
Okay. Any other?
Yeah, there are several. Someone can have a traumatic brain injury. Let's say someone was hit by something in the head or had an accident, and as a result of the trauma in the brain, people can kill themselves.
Also, when you had childhood trauma, can you kill yourself because maybe the burden is too much?
Yeah, we have now the trauma that I'm talking about. The traumatic brain injury is being hit by something.
Okay.
You see, so when you're hit, someone tends to have what do I call it? Like your brain doesn't function normally as a result of the trauma. When the brain is injured, and as a result, you can become psychotic, things like those, and that is more or less like a mental illness, and you can commit suicide. However, we have now what we call the social trauma. An example is a situation whereby someone was raped or someone was sodomized in his or her early age, and this trauma was not handled. And this particular individual carries the trauma on and on in his life. So such people tend to take away their lives. Because there is this element of self unworthiness. They feel like they are not worthy. maybe that's why I was late. You see things like those. And for your information, these people, they fail to forgive themselves, and they fail to forgive the people who traumatized them, if it's through rape and all that. They blame themselves. Maybe I exposed myself to this particular person who raped me. So they are unable to forgive them. And the more they think about it, the more they get tortured mentally. And they get to a conclusion whereby the only way they can relieve themselves of these torturing thoughts and all that is through committing suicide.
And also, is there, like, especially when you are brought in a dysfunctional home, like, for example, your father was a drunk, he used to come and beat your mother, and you are brought with the trauma that, you know, that trauma that, you know that men are bad, like, they can beat you, or there's that trauma of a family, where you are brought in a dysfunctional family. Does it affect, can it lead to suicide or any mental health disorder?
Actually, for information, I ever encountered a situation whereby there was this boy who always used to blame himself. Apparently, his father used to beat up his mother very much in his childhood. And this child was just watching as his father was battling his mom. So, at some point, this child came to think that, why couldn't I save my mother? Get that? So he started having self-blame. I just couldn't save my mom, and maybe I'm not capable of doing anything worthy, if at all. Saving my own mother who gave birth to me was not possible. See, things like those. So this particular boy tried to commit suicide. You get that?
Yes.
Because he blamed himself for the things that his mother went through. Maybe I could have saved him, but I didn't save him. Because what happened there? This particular man was drunk every other time, and he was beating his wife very much. Then there came a time when the same husband killed the wife. And this particular boy was watching all those things. So that's the reason as to why.
So it's important to parents, kindly, if you are fighting or if you have any disagreement, don't do it in front of the children. It is very important that you keep anything away from the children, so that they won't have any mental disorders as they grow up. Is that true?
Yeah, that's very true. At least it's very, 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 very necessary to ensure that we keep our children away from traumatic experiences whatsoever. Because remember, these children are in their developmental stages, and some of these factors that we predispose them to will affect their later future. So there's no need of ruining your child's life through exposing him to things that are going to collapse his mind. You get that? We also have other risk factors whereby we have sudden loss. Someone can have what we call inferno. Your properties can be burned, and you feel like you just can't make it all over again, like starting from all over. So such people tend to kill themselves. Then we have loss of loved ones. Like now, for example, this particular person has lived with his wife for over 40 years. So upon the wife dying, this particular person can commit suicide. Or even people children losing their parents. Some of them tend to commit suicide because they think that these are the only people who loved me, who valued me, and now they are gone. So there's no need of living anymore. So loss of loved one, loss of properties, and all those things can make people commit suicide. Are we together?
Yes.
Then we have what we call being exposed to other people's suicides. Maybe I'm a child, I've been exposed to people committing suicide, and then when I'm faced by a situation that is too hard for me to handle, I just get into my thought, and the first thing that comes into my mind is that there's this and that committed suicide as a result of challenges. So maybe I can also relieve myself of these challenges through killing myself. Then we also have suicide history in the family. People who have their loved one committing suicide are more prone to committing suicide themselves. Together, maybe a child experienced his dad or his mom committing suicide. Such people can commit suicide. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we have lethal weapons. Like let's say those people who have guns. People who have things that they can use them, do them to kill themselves, can easily use them.
But not most of the time.
Not most of the time. But you see, sorry?
Okay, especially when you have a mental disorder.
Especially when you have a mental disorder. I have an example of a police officer who killed his colleague and killed himself. Yeah? Actually, they were fighting over a girl. Maybe we've come across such a story. So, the reason as why this particular person killed themselves is because they had a weapon. And they have been faced by a situation that is so stressing, so traumatizing, or a situation that have angered them beyond control. You get that? Yeah. So, those are the risk factors.
So what are the warning signs or ways in which you can know someone is suicidal?
Oh yeah, we have several warning signs which are observable and that can tell us that this particular person is about to commit suicide. You get that?
Yes.
So the first one is talking about death, saying that you want to die. You get things like this, or wanting to die. This particular person starts all of a sudden talking about death. How is the feeling of death? How does one feel?
Or how to kill yourself?
You see things like those. So when someone all of a sudden starts talking about death or verbalizes about wanting to die, that should be a warning sign of suicidal.
Also, when someone is asking for advice about suicide.
Yeah, actually, it's not a suicide. It's not an advice about suicide. Some people ask of ways on how they can commit suicide. Like now, I can come to you and then I ask, by the way, what is the most convenient way of killing yourself without feeling pain? Things like those. So that is a warning sign of suicide. Then we have the other second one, and it's talking about emptiness, loneliness, guilt, blaming yourself and all that. So all of a sudden this particular person starts saying how lonely he or she feels, how empty he feels, blaming himself, feeling guilty, see that excessive guilt and all that. So and then they start saying that they just want to get out of these feelings, because now I feel so empty, I feel so lonely, I'm just blaming myself, I just want to get out of these feelings. And this particular person is not going for therapeutic sessions, is not under any medication. So you should ask yourself, now that this particular person is saying that they want to get out of this feeling, how are they intending to get out of them? So that should be a very, 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 very critical warning sign. Then there is talking about not having reason to live. There are people who say, I feel I don't need to live anymore. I don't want to interact with people anymore. I don't want to see these people anymore. See? So that, like, they literally don't want to live. They just say that I'm tired of living. I feel like I've gotten to the end of living. You get that? So these people are most likely to commit suicide. You get that? Then we have the social withdrawal and isolation. Social withdrawal is a situation whereby this particular person had been interacting with people very well, and then all of a sudden they start withdrawing from people, staying in isolation. You get that? So that is obtaining a falling personality from the one this particular person was used to. So that should be a warning sign. You get that? Then there are people who normally start giving their items.
Especially the one they value.
Exactly. Especially the one they value. They start sharing their items. If it's businesses, they start planning them very well. That in case I'm not present today, you should work at this particular field. You should this particular thing. You see things like those. Like they start planning. They start giving their items. see. Yeah. And then there are those people who normally prepare their loved ones. An example is someone who says, I'm planning for a journey. I'll be taking a long journey and I'm not intending to come back anytime soon. So when I go, I'll be missing you people. But don't worry, I'll be in a good place. So I just want to wish you well. And this particular person all of a sudden starts verbalizing such things from nowhere. Like there's no you can relate the journey. You see? So that should be a warning. We have low motivation. This is a situation whereby an individual person is not motivated in his line of duty, in his hobbies, in his social life. It's just there, and they ends up withdrawing themselves, like we said in the other warning sign. Then we have risky behaviors. There are people who start mutilating themselves, trying to stab themselves, and there are people who will start hiding ropes. You get that? Others will start running to the groceries, buying insecticides and pesticides, trying to swallow them. Others will try taking many pills. An example, someone is supposed to take paracetamol in case of headache, and it's one gram. That is 2 pills. And this particular person ends up taking 10, 15. So those risky behaviors are indicators
So
of
is
warning
there
sign.
like, especially when you're cutting yourself, I heard that when you're cutting yourself, like you feel like by cutting yourself physically, you are dealing with emotional pain that you're having.
Yeah, there are people who normally mutilate themselves as a way of punishing themselves. You get that? And the moment you feel pain, the moment you stop breathing, you feel healed. Let's say you did something and you're unable to forgive yourself. So the only way you get into terms with yourself again as far as forgiveness is concerned is through cutting yourself. That is what we call self-mutilation.
Is there another one is where someone is happy or too happy?
Yeah.
Like they are so happy because they know that maybe this is the last day on this earth. So they are so happy, they are so joyful. Is that one of them?
Actually, we call that sudden change of personality. Maybe you're used to me as a happy person, I'm always happy. Then all of a sudden, for no unexplainable reason, I start getting sad, crying, things like those. Or maybe I'm always very serious. I'm an introvert rather. I don't interact with people easily. I just keep to myself. And then all of a sudden, I'm very happy. I want to celebrate with people. You see things like those. Sudden change of personality can be also a warning sign of suicide. And actually now, the only way you can be able to know that this particular person is about to commit suicide is relating events. You get that?
Yes. Okay. So as we come to an end, how can you prevent someone from committing, or how can you help someone who wants to commit suicide?
We have various ways of helping people who want to commit suicide. The very first one, I always say, is showing them love.
Is
Showing
love
them
enough?
Love enough is not a preventive measure for suicide, but it's part of the preventive measure.
Okay.
Because these people, they need understanding. Let's say someone is mentally ill. Let's say someone has developed psychosis as a result of drugs. Let's say someone is undergoing grief. Or even let's say someone has what we call terminal illnesses, chronic illnesses. He or she is experiencing a lot of pain. The only way you can show them that you're understanding them is through love. So through love, you can help them love themselves more, treasure or value themselves more, and chances of committing suicide will be minimal. That is one. Secondly, is identifying whether this particular person has any underlying mental illness. Because you'll be able to know if this particular person is sick, has he or she sought medical attention? If he or she is under medication, let's say for example antidepressant or antipsychotic, is he or she taking them? You get that, eh? Then there is if someone have suicidal tendencies, there is the withdrawal of items that someone can use to kill themselves. Putting away chemicals like pesticides or insecticides, putting away sharp objects because people can stab themselves, or even putting away ropes. You see, any other thing that someone can use to commit suicide, you put them away. Then if you realize that this particular person have changed their personality, that what I call sudden change of personality, you need to understand themselves more. You talk to them, you ask them, what is there an issue, like what is happening to you? You get that? And then if this particular person have illnesses or they have committed to commit suicide, at least you're supposed to take them to the hospital. You get
take
that?
them to the ordinary hospital, to a mental hospital.
You need to take them to a mental hospital because it's this particular person who have tried to commit suicide, let's say because of mental illnesses, and this particular mental illness have not been treated yet. Chances of him trying to commit suicide are very high. So you take them to a mental hospital because there we have what we call padded rooms. That's a specialized place for a suicidal person where they cannot harm themselves. You get that, eh?
And in the mental institution, they can be held through medicine and counseling.
Yeah, through medicine. If someone is tried to commit suicide, let's say for example because of loss of a loved one, properties and all that, someone is grieving. Once he or she is taken to a mental hospital, there will be a therapist, a counseling psychologist or a clinical psychologist, and they will help them. They will have sessions with them, therapeutic sessions with them, and they will be helped. You get that, eh? So through that, those suicidal ideations will be subside. Those suicidal ideations will subside. You get that, eh? Then when you realize that someone is withdrawing themselves, you need to understand why is this person withdrawing him or herself from other people. You get that? You need to understand him more. And if at all he is withdrawing, you need to know what exactly is he doing in isolation. You get that, eh? So those are some of the preventive measures, eh?
Okay, so as you come to an end, kindly give someone maybe who's trying to commit suicide or who has tried, give them, motivate them, tell them something. Yeah,
sure. And also there is what we call encouragement, eh? If someone tries to commit suicide, you see now the problem with the society is condemning. It's condemning. Instead of condemning, you need to give what we call positivity in this particular person. First of all, you understand the reason as why they try to commit suicide. And upon understanding, you give them positivity. How do you give positivity? You need to explain to them the advantages of living, how important they are, how beneficial they can be, you see, how they can impact to others and to the society at large positively. You see things like those, like you need to encourage them. You need to build positivity in them. Because the moment you condemn, you'll be more or less like affirming the unworthiness of this particular person. To conclude, if you're out there and you're contemplating suicide, you need to see how important you are, how unique you are. You've been through a lot, I know. That's the reason as why maybe you're trying to commit suicide. But there's always a solution for every problem. You need to seek attention, medical attention or psychological attention. Like, you just speak your mind. One thing I say, it's always okay not to be okay, but you can always get help. Yeah. If you're trying to think of committing suicide, think about the people who love you, your parents. If you're married, your spouse, your children. That's how important you are. I know you've been through a lot, but this is not the end. You can still make it. Yeah. So speak out. if at all you have some mental illnesses, I always say it's just like you can have malaria, or like you can have typhoid or any other illnesses. The only thing that you need to do is to seek mental attention. You be medicated, and from there you'll be good to go. So your life really matters. We treasure you, we value you, and we need you in life. So please don't commit suicide. Just speak out. Seek help whenever necessary. And in case you don't have anyone to lean on, make sure that you comment something little on that channel, and I'll be there for you. That's an assurance. Just like I said, I'm a mental health practitioner, and I can assure you, I always come to you wherever you are, and together we'll always make it.
Thank you so much. Like I said, it's okay to not be okay. So speak up and seek help. Thank you so much for watching, and we have come to the end of this discussion. Thank you, and kindly subscribe, and let's meet next time.
Yeah,
Bye.
sure. Bye.